Hi, I'm Morgan, a wedding photographer helping engaged couples create the perfect rundown for their wedding day. After photographing weddings for 5 years, I'm sharing all of my best tips, tricks, and experiences that I share with all of our couples. Now for invitations, it's recommended that you send out your formal invitations about 6 to 8 weeks before your wedding. If you're having a destination wedding, 3 months out is the recommended time. Make sure your RSVP deadline is no later than 1 month before your wedding. You'll need plenty of time to get your final guest count to your vendors and especially to your caterer and your venue. Of course, pay attention to those deadlines before you set your RSVP date just in case they're different. Unfortunately, you'll probably need a little bit of wiggle room to chase down those guests who struggle to RSVP on time. So give yourself enough time to do that so it doesn't cause you extra stress, or better yet, delegate that task to an organized wedding party member or even a family member if they're willing to do it. Now on the invites, you'll want to include your names, the date again, the start time of your ceremony, the venue and address, a link to your wedding website if you have one, your registry options, accommodations, and the name for room blocks if you have them for hotels. If your ceremony and reception are at the same venue, you could just say reception to follow or cocktail hour and reception to follow. If your ceremony and reception are at separate venues, you might want to include the start time for cocktail hour and of course include the addresses for both of the venues. If your guests have to make food choices, you'll want to include that on their RSVP as well. If you're having a kid-free wedding, many couples opt to include a line about that on their invite just to make it super clear. You might be shocked at the number of times we've heard of guests just showing up with their kids even though the couple thought it was fairly obvious on the invitation that they weren't invited. And remember, include the names of the exact people you are inviting on the envelope of the invitation. For example, Bob and Sally Smith, or Bob, Sally, and Lisa Smith, if their daughter Lisa is invited. It is pretty customary to include a guest with a single person. So in that case, you would write Bob Smith and guest. Now here's a pro tip for your invitations. Number your RSVP cards. So on the back of your RSVP card, put the number in small writing in the corner. You could use a permanent marker, a pen. I've heard of some people using magic markers so the guests can't even see that there's a number on it. If you have a guest list spreadsheet or even a handwritten list, assign each guest a number and then put that corresponding number on their particular RSVP card. It's a little extra work, but another surprising detail, a lot of people actually fail to put their names on their RSVP cards when they send them back to you. Kind of crazy, but it happens. They'll put their food choices, they might even write a little note, but they will forget to put their names. With your number system, you won't have to try to figure out who sent it back to you. Now, if you're trying to fit all of this information on one card, you're probably better off including a link to a wedding website where you can include more detail without making the card too crowded. So you can put addresses on your wedding website and times for cocktail hour and accommodations. Now, if you want my advice on what makes your wedding look a little more formal and high-end and what looks best for photos, especially leveling up your detail photos with your invitation, it's always going to be a multi-piece invitation suite. These are one of my favorite things to photograph with details because you can include so many other little details from the day, like flowers, rings, jewelry, ribbon, and a gorgeous flat lay. The pieces of these and your invitations bring out your wedding colors and your style, and they look beautiful together. It also allows you to include more information without relying on your guests going to your wedding website. I'll be sure to include a link to some of my highly recommended businesses for invitation suites. Stop stressing about your wedding budget. We've made budgeting for your wedding super easy for you by creating a detailed budget tracker in Google Sheets. Set your budget in every category, access it anywhere, share it with your fiance, and add expenses on the spot so you never miss a thing. Click Get My Free Wedding Budget Tracker in the description below to grab your free copy.